Hi Year 6, welcome to Lesson 4 of your Hoverbike writing. We're continuing writing our persuasive letter today, so hopefully you got your introduction and your first main paragraph of complaint done yesterday, as we're going to be looking at paragraphs 2 and 3 today, our main sections of writing where we really go to town on our complaint. Let's get started. So on the planning sheet, you don't have to use the planning sheet, but just to show you that we are on the main paragraphs. This was main paragraph 1, which you did yesterday, along with your introduction. And today we're looking at paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. Tomorrow we'll have a little look at the conclusion. So next two sections of our letter are what we're going to be getting on with today. So here's the plan for paragraph 2. Having talked about the delivery service, I feel that the excessive packaging and non-environmentally friendly aspect of this packaging was what I would complain about next to the company. So that's what I've made bullet point notes about here, and that's what I'm going to write about in my next section. Okay, firstly you'll notice that that first line has some blue writing in it, and that's because I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that I've linked it to the previous paragraph. My first main paragraph of writing was all about the shocking delivery service. So to create cohesion in writing, it's important to make links back to what you've already written about without being repetitive, but just showing the reader that you are making links between one section and another and that you want them to read the whole piece together. So, following the appalling delivery service, I was then disappointed to find the box itself to be like a brain teaser. It was almost impossible to open. In the end, I was forced to tear the box open the best I could. Unfortunately, this resulted in me hitting myself in the eye. I could have been seriously hurt or even blinded. As a result, I was then unprepared for the avalanche of polystyrene pieces that then showered down upon me. Is this level of packaging really necessary? I am certain this excessive waste cannot be good for our planet. Now you can see here, as we've talked about already, the emotive language that's coming through in this writing. We've got disappointed, unfortunately. You've got some exaggeration here, talking about being blinded and an avalanche of polystyrene beads. These exaggerations just make your point even more powerful than it might have been if you just said some polystyrene pieces fell out or I could have been hurt. It just emphasizes those points a little bit more. And you can see that I've made links between my sentences. How one sentence joins to another. Change the colour of my highlighting pen. So we've got following, so you've got that link at the beginning, and then you've got an adverbial here, unfortunately. Then you've got a conjunction, as a result, so you're showing consequences, cause and effect. And then you've got a couple that start with it or I, and that's absolutely fine. As long as you are varying your openers every now and again, that's going to keep it interesting for your reader and you're not going to bore them. So some useful openers for your paragraph 2 might be some of these, some subordinating conjunctions, so that you start with your subordinate clause at the beginning and then follow it with your main clause. But again, mix it up so that you have a variety of sentence structures throughout your piece of writing. Now you may want to pause the video here because you want to actually get on with writing your second main paragraph now before you plan and write your third one, but that's up to you. Now, before you start writing your third paragraph, I really want to emphasise that point again, that we're making links between our sections of writing. So your learning objective is to make links between paragraphs, and in these two, I've got the end of this second paragraph and the beginning of this third one, and I've highlighted in blue how I've made those links. So imagine this is the end of your second paragraph and you might have complained about the fact there was no safety equipment. Finally, after coming to the realisation that there was no helmet, safety equipment or instruction manual, I hoped that the riding experience would make up for these issues. Next paragraph. Sadly, this was not the case. This part of the experience was even worse. So you've made that link between what you were writing about here and now you're going to be talking about the riding experience itself. So this is an example of what you might write about in section 3 of your writing. I'll read this and then we'll talk about planning what you might want to include. Sadly, this was not the case. This part of the experience was even worse. In addition to your poor service, I must inform you that the Hoverbike 360 is a faulty and defective product. Due to the fact that there was no key or even any kind of ignition, the bike took off with me inside the box. Unable to see a thing, it is fortunate that I did not kill myself or any of my neighbours. However, as the bike was impossible to control, I was ejected from the vehicle and left stranded on the roof of my house, causing me great embarrassment, as well as knocking out my Wi-Fi. I hope you find that quite amusing as well. In this writing, we've got some technical language, words like ejected, we've got vehicle, bike, we're using those synonyms to replace just the Hoverbike 360 itself. You might talk about the inability to control it. My pen is not working quite how I want it to. You've also got the word defective product, faulty. You're really complaining about this product, and the rideability of it seems to be quite dangerous, to be honest, and you want to emphasize that point. You've got those conjunctions adding your ideas together, so you've got different openers in this section as well. In addition, here you've got finally up here, and that's the sort of end of that previous paragraph. You've got an adverb here, sadly, and it's an emotive one as well. You've got unable to see a thing, so you've got a fronted adverbial there. Another conjunction there. So you've got lots of different sentence openers, keeping your reader interested. There's another one there, due to the fact. Okay, let's have a look at paragraph 3's planning. Now this is your last section, and you have written essentially in chronological order. So your delivery was the first thing you complained about, then it was the packaging, and now in your third main paragraph of writing, you're going to talk about what happened when you rode the bike itself. So in the side here, I've got a key theme. The bike goes out of control, it causes damage to the property. You might mention it's property damage as well as physical, but that's up to you. I've got quite a few bullet points here. These are things that I'm thinking I'm going to include in my next section. I'm going to talk about how it was hard to control or difficult to control the bike. You might mention the noise, you might mention the fumes. If you want to add further detail to your writing, make it a really long, detailed paragraph. The most important thing in this section, though, I think, is the lack of safety. Then no seat belt meant you fell off, no automatic engine cut out like there would be on a motorbike, so the bike drove off on its own, seemingly having a mind of its own, and you might mention some exaggeration here. It's a death trap, a suicide machine, a lethal vehicle. These all emphasise just how unhappy and upset you are, so they're very emotive. And if you haven't got your reader's attention by now, this certainly will. Let's have a read of an example. So a time conjunction to start us off, because this is your last paragraph of complaint. Finally, having been disappointed by both your appalling delivery service and excessive packaging, I hoped that the Hoverbike itself would make up for it. Sadly, this was not the case. As I began to ride the vehicle, I became most concerned by the lack of safety. Without a seatbelt, I felt very unstable and fell off only after a short drive. Consequently, I broke 2 ribs in my fall, which I feel would have been avoided had the bike had a seatbelt. Furthermore, this was not the only damage that the Hoverbike caused. Once I had fallen from the bike, I was most surprised to see that the machine continued to drive without a rider. Where was the safety cut out for the engine? As a result, the vehicle careered uncontrollably into my house and caused extensive damage to the front wall. Okay, so I hope you spotted that link sentence at the beginning of the paragraph that I've highlighted for you in blue, and that makes the whole piece of your writing sound really cohesive, all linked together, and it builds on one idea from another. So we started that with a time conjunction there. There's lots of conjunctions in this writing. Lots of the ones used here are cause and effect conjunctions. So as, consequently, there's another one down here, as a result. These are cause and effect where one event created another event, and that's what you're explaining to your reader. There's also an adding conjunction here, furthermore, and you've got your time conjunction at the beginning at the top there. So lots of ideas are linked together in writing. Remember, I say the conjunctions are the glue of writing. They hang things together, they hold it all so that it makes sense, it links together, and it doesn't just sound like a list of sentences that you've just written off the top of your head. Just as before, we've got negative emotive language here. So you've got words like disappointed, appalling. I've used appalling quite a lot, and I think I probably will end up going back through this piece of writing and editing that and changing it for one of my others in my negative emotive language bubble on my planning sheet. You've got words like unstable and uncontrollably, and when you put the prefix un in front of something, it makes it the negation of something else. If you think about the word unhappy and happy, the word unhappy makes it a negative thing. It makes it the opposite meaning. So they tend to be negative things that you're saying about something. Most of those are fine. You've got other things in here to do with punctuation. So let's have a quick look and see what punctuation we've included. We've got sentences with fronted adverbials or subordinating conjunctions at the beginning, so you've got your commas to separate that. You've got a colon here. Last week's spag task was all about using a colon to introduce two clauses or link two clauses together. So you've got a clause here that links to the one before it. You've got commas to separate your clauses, where you've got an embedded clause there. You've got commas there following a conjunction at the beginning of a sentence. You've got another colon here linking, again, two independent clauses together. Exclamation mark to emphasize your point. Another question there, questioning the reader, making them think about what's happened and whether or not they should do something about it. So lots of things that you can include in your writing. And if you're handwriting this, it's really easy to go back and edit when you've finished. I've popped some adding conjunctions on this page for you, just as examples that you might want to use when you're starting your sentences and creating your cohesion. And then in red at the bottom, I thought maybe you'd like to start your final paragraph, this last one, with a time conjunction. Finally, lastly, the last complaint I have, so that you're telling your reader that this is the last section of your writing. So that's it for today. Your task then, you're writing the second and third main paragraphs of your writing about your hoverbike experience. You are mentioning possibly the packaging and the bike being really faulty and dangerous. Remember to vary your openers and ensure you maintain that formal style of writing so that you are writing a complaint about the bike rather than retelling events like a story. Remember, you don't want it to sound like a story. This is a complaint and you want them to do something about it. So you are emphasizing the quality of their product rather than retelling the events. Okay, good luck. I look forward to reading them.